Shiloh Hendricks has been found guilty in a racial slur case. The former Rochester woman was fined $1,000 and sentenced to community service in a case that went viral nationally. You guys may remember the video here where Shiloh was in a playground. A young 5-year-old autistic Somalian child stole something from her child's diaper bag. I think it was applesauce or something like that, and she ended up using a racial slur. The father of the child, a Somalian man, began filming. He is the videographer who can be seen here, and he dared her to use the N-word again, and he used it many times himself, but he said, I dare you, just go ahead and say it, and sure enough, she did, on video, and for that, Shiloh Hendricks has been found guilty of disorderly conduct towards the Somalian filming her. Not guilty of offense to the child after this viral racial slur incident, but guilty for disorderly conduct towards the Somali himself who was filming her. Now, this man ended up starting a GoFundMe campaign. Help us seek justice for a 5-year-old facing racial hate, and he raised $341,000. But Shiloh also started her own campaign. Of course, she used Give, Send, Go. GoFundMe is so woke, they would never fund anything on her behalf. So she went with Give, Send, Go, which was a good idea. She ended up raising, look at this, $870,000. Because people are completely fed up with just the policing of speech and the cancel culture that's going on here. In fact, if I refresh this for the latest, look at that, 873,000 now. You can see donations are coming in by the second. Again, because people are fed up with this. And why is that? Well, check this out. Shiloh Hendricks was just found guilty of disorderly conduct. Count 1 towards the child, not guilty. Count 2 towards the videographer, guilty. Reminder that the videographer here in question is a Somalian predator who was charged with raping a teenage girl but was let go. In Minnesota, if a foreigner sexually assaults minors, he goes free. But if you say the N-word, you are punished by the state. Talk about a two-tiered justice system. And here it is. Sexual assault case against Rochester men dismissed. And yet another Rochester jury finds this woman who hurled racial slurs at a black child on a playground guilty. Again, two-tiered justice system indeed. So I want to kind of break down some of the larger implications, the major kind of takeaways from this case. But before I do, I want to point out I did cover this last year when it happened, when saying the N-word divided the internet with viral crowdfunding campaigns. So I just wanted to play a brief clip from that video from a year ago because it is relevant to what we're speaking about here today. Now, you'll notice that this is on my old backup channel, not my main YouTube channel, and that's because this channel didn't even exist. It was terminated back when I made that video. That's why it had to go on my old backup channel. So make sure you subscribe to this channel here if you're not yet already. But here's just a little clip from my coverage of this last year for context and just to bring you up to speed.
The internet is heavily divided over this issue, which is actually a lot more about cancel culture and free speech than it has anything to do with any racial issues. Now, let me just first state the obvious. Berating a young 5-year-old child with name-calling because he allegedly stole something from your 18-month-old baby is absolutely abhorrent behavior. This lady obviously could have handled this situation much, much better than the way she did. But here's the thing about free speech that most people don't like to hear. If you don't believe in the free speech for the people who say the things that you absolutely despise, then you don't believe in it at all. What if she decided to call the kid a little brat instead? Isn't she free to do so, no matter how distasteful that may be? What she did was very, very bad. But for those on the left to then turn around and dox her by releasing her social security number, her phone number, and her address, I would argue is worse than her using this highly weaponized word. And the whole world is absolutely fed up and tired of seeing this cancel culture play out. And that's why they have just contributed upwards of $750,000 because they know it's time to push back.
Yeah, $750,000 is how much it was back then. But again, we're up to like almost $784,000 now. And rightly so. Because this exposes the selective enforcement and two-tiered standards that have become all too common. She was found guilty of disorderly conduct, not for violence or for threats, but for her words directed at a Somali man who was filming her. And I will remind you that this man in question was previously charged with 3rd and 5th degree criminal sexual conduct involving a teenage girl. Those charges were dismissed in the interest of justice. So he walks free, but a mother who used ugly, racist language in a park gets dragged through the system, prosecuted by the state, and convicted of disorderly conduct for speech directed at the videographer. My friends, in Minnesota, it seems that you can face serious sex crimes allegations involving a minor and have the charges dropped, but use a racial slur and the machinery of the state kicks in. That's the contrast that a lot of people are seeing, and it's hard to ignore. And let me be clear, this isn't a defense of the language. Calling a child the N-word is reprehensible and deserves social condemnation. Without the prosecution, she would have faced the natural consequences of public shame, lost opportunities, and community backlash. But instead, the state turned words into a criminal matter, and that flipped the script. She now becomes the one positioned as a victim of selective state power. And people who are sick of cancel culture and policing speech have responded. Her Give, Send, Go has raised over $873,000 as of the making of this video, because a growing number of Americans reject the idea that the government should be the enforcer of acceptable speech, no matter how offensive that speech is. Because free speech includes speech you hate. Once the state starts criminalizing words based on who says them and who is offended, the principle is gone. And this case is not isolated, guys. It sits inside a larger pattern of perceived double standards on immigration, identity, crime, and speech. And whether you agree with her fundraising campaign's success or not, the principle remains. Criminalizing distasteful speech while more serious allegations against others are dismissed erodes equal application of the law. That's the story here. Not the media narrative of pure racism versus pure justice. The selective priorities of the system. Words versus actions. Who gets prosecuted and who doesn't. So the real issue here isn't whether Shyla Hendricks said something ugly, because she did. It's whether the state should turn offensive speech into a criminal offense, while far more serious allegations against others just quietly disappear. Once governments start picking which words get punished based on identity and politics, free speech becomes a privilege instead of a right. But thankfully, people are waking up to that double standard. That's why the support for her fundraiser keeps growing. Not because racism is suddenly popular, but because a lot of ordinary Americans have had enough of selective justice and policing speech. So let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comment section below. And if you appreciate my efforts to bring you this information, please consider making a contribution at pressedfortruth.ca/donate. You can find a link for that in the description. Please share this video far and wide, guys, and don't forget to subscribe or follow me if you're new here. And that's all for today, guys. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, stay vigilant. Keep fighting the good fight, And stay tuned. I'm going to have more video reports coming soon, God willing. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.